The April rain had been beating against my windows since early morning, as if someone had decided to wrap the entire town of Oak Ridge in a gray veil for the day. In this small Midwestern town, spring rarely arrives with abundant sunshine. I watch the droplets sliding down the glass as I prepare my afternoon tea. Earl Grey without sugar, with just a splash of milk, exactly how I like it. The cup has gone cold, but I still haven't gotten up. I observe how the drops trace paths along the window, as if someone were drawing invisible stories. How many rainy mornings like this have I lived through in this house? I've lost count. My name is Eleanor Mitchell, and in 3 days I'll turn 68. Almost my entire life, 40 years, was spent within the walls of Oak Ridge High School, where I taught English literature. So many generations passed through my classroom. I tried to show them that literature isn't just words but history, emotion, and beauty. Now there's only silence. Retirement. At first it seemed like a long-awaited respite, but now this silence sometimes weighs so heavily that I don't know how to escape it. It's Tuesday, an ordinary day. I should go to the grocery store, clean a bit. Maybe if the rain lets up, I could visit the public library. Everything as usual, but in my mind throbs, like a constant pulse, the thought of my approaching birthday. Another one. Another one. Possibly in solitude. Suddenly the phone rings. Unknown number. I answer anyway. At my age, who knows, it could be important. Eleanor Mitchell? An unfamiliar female voice. This is Jessica from Glamour Salon in Oak Ridge. I'm calling to confirm your appointment for tomorrow at 10 in the morning. I'm confused. I didn't make any appointment. I'm about to say there must be a mistake when something stops me. What if it's a sign? Maybe fate wants to give me a little nudge to cheer myself up. Why not go? A bit of personal care before my birthday wouldn't hurt. Yes, of course, I respond. I'll be there. After the call, I go upstairs to my bedroom and open the closet doors. Everything is as always. Proper suits, dark skirts, cardigans, all restrained and practical. The wardrobe of a teacher, accustomed to discipline. Suddenly, my gaze fixes on a blue dress, soft, slightly flowing. Robert gave it to me on our last anniversary. It matches your eyes, he told me then, with a slight smile. I take it out and hold it up to myself, looking in the mirror. Yes, the wrinkles have increased, and my hair is now completely gray. But my eyes remain the same. Robert left 10 years ago. A sudden heart attack. We had just started planning our summer. We wanted to go to Cape Cod, walk along the beach, and one morning, I woke up, and he was gone. Sometimes it feels like it was yesterday, and other times, like it happened in another lifetime. The house still holds his memory. All those bookshelves, the dining table, the bench in the garden, everything his hands built. He was a physics professor, but where he really found joy was making things at home. Sometimes when the loneliness becomes unbearable, I talk to him out loud. What do you think, Robert? I say while carefully hanging the dress back up. Will they come for my birthday? They are my son, David, his wife, Jennifer, and their 2 children, Emily, 16, and Jason, 12. We haven't seen each other for 3 months, since Christmas. I called them then, asking to visit. The evening turned out cold. Everything seemed polite, but not genuine. Forced smiles, superficial conversations. Jennifer didn't even try to hide her irritation. David was constantly distracted, and the kids were glued to their phones, responding with monosyllables without looking up. And to think that when he was little, David was my sunshine. We were so close. I helped him with homework, took him to soccer practice, read to him before bed. Robert even joked, "You spoil him too much because he looks like me." But when David entered high school, everything changed. The wrong crowd. His character became harsh, grades plummeted. Robert and I tried to guide him back. It was difficult, but we succeeded. He got into college, earned a business degree. We were so proud. And then Jennifer appeared. Beautiful, ambitious, determined. They met at the insurance company, where they both worked. The wedding was extravagant. So many guests that I didn't know half of them. Even then, I felt that to Jennifer, we were strangers. After Robert's death, everything became more difficult. David was present at the funeral, helped out, but afterward it was as if he disappeared, immersed in work, in his family, calling less and less, visiting less and less. Last year on my birthday, they didn't even call. Jennifer sent a text. Happy birthday, Eleanor. David's in a meeting. Kids are busy. We'll call later. But they never did. The rain intensifies, and I decide not to go to the store. Better to clean. I mop the floors, clean the kitchen, even wash the windows, despite the rain. I work in silence, not giving myself time to think. I don't want to reflect on how my entire life now revolves around these four walls, that my son barely remembers I exist, that my grandchildren are growing up hardly knowing who I am. When I finish, I take out the photo albums. There's my boy, taking his first steps in his graduation suit. There we are, on our last family trip to the lake. Robert was still with us then. I try to pinpoint the exact moment when everything fell apart. I can't find it. Perhaps it all happened gradually, drop by drop, like the rain that beats relentlessly against my window, reminding me that time marches on, indifferent to our little personal tragedies. The doorbell pulls me from my memories. I'm not expecting anyone. On the threshold stands Martha Johnson, my neighbor and friend. Perhaps my only true one. In her hands, she holds a container with something hot. I thought with this weather you wouldn't feel like cooking, she says. I brought you chicken soup. My grandmother's recipe. Don't say no. Martha is 72, and completely opposite to me. Cheerful, energetic, self-assured. Also a widow, but with 3 children, and 7 grandchildren. And they all love her, call her, visit her. Come in. I invite her. I was just about to make some tea. We settle comfortably in the kitchen. Martha pours the tea. I bring out cookies I baked yesterday. So how are you planning to celebrate your birthday? Martha asks with a perceptive look. I just sigh. Hopefully with family. If I can convince them to come. Give it up. You forgive them too much, she grumbles. I would have told them what's what a long time ago. I don't know how to do that. I don't know if I have that courage. Martha looks at me intently and squeezes my hand. You have more than you think, Eleanor. And you have yourself, which is no small thing. Don't forget that. When Martha leaves, I stand by the window for a long time, watching her umbrella disappear among the puddles. She's right. I really have allowed David and Jennifer to get away with too much. Maybe I'm partly to blame. I never insist, never demand. I simply wait to see if they'll remember. But I don't want to keep waiting anymore. I dial my son's number. The rings continue, and I'm about to hang up when he answers. Mom, has something happened? His voice sounds dry, slightly irritated. I try to speak calmly. No, David, everything's fine. I just wanted to remind you that Friday is my birthday. Maybe you could stop by, even for a little while. Silence on the other end. Then some noises as if he'd covered the receiver with his hand. Probably consulting with Jennifer. Mom, Friday is totally chaotic. Jennifer has an event. Emily has rehearsal. Jason, I understand. I interrupt him. It's okay if you can't make it. Another pause. Then suddenly, well, we could come by around 2, for a couple of hours. Really? I don't immediately process that he's agreed. That's wonderful, David. I'm so happy. I'll prepare something Jason likes. And Emily. Mom. He cuts me off abruptly. Nothing special is necessary. We'll just stop by to wish you happy birthday, give you a present, and leave. We have a lot to do. Of course, I quickly agree. Whatever works for you. After the call, I can't sit still. For the first time in many years, they'll come to my birthday without fuss. Not out of courtesy, not out of obligation. I understand that for them it might just be a mark on the calendar. But for me, it means a lot. And I decide that everything will be special. Not for them, but for myself. The following days pass in preparations. I don't rush, I do everything with care. as I used to when I waited for Robert to return from work. I go to the salon, the same one where I was accidentally registered. The young hairstylist fixes me up carefully, refreshes my hair color a bit, not covering the gray completely, just adding a soft tone to make it look natural. When she says, "You look 10 years younger," I don't believe her, but I smile anyway. Afterward, I stop by a store and buy a new blouse, sky blue to match my eyes. Robert always said that color suited me. The house is already spotless, but I mop the floors again anyway, wash the dishes in the cabinet, launder tablecloths and napkins, as if I'm not preparing to receive my family, but for something much more important. My soul yearns for order, warmth, comfort. Martha, as always, doesn't stay on the sidelines. "Let me help you," she says, standing in my hallway with a cloth and bags. "I can manage on my own, really." Don't argue. Let this old friend do her good deed. Besides, I want to see your ungrateful son and his fancy wife in person. "Martha," I try to look serious, but end up laughing. "Let's not start. You always forgive them everything," she grumbles, waving her hand. "Your entire life. On my birthday, I wake up early when it's still dark. Through the clouds filter the first rays of sun, and I take it as a sign. After a week of rain, finally a clear morning. Could it be a good omen? I shower, put on my new blouse, navy blue pants, apply light makeup to my eyes, a bit of powder, barely anything. Not to look younger, but simply to look refreshed. I look in the mirror and suddenly feel something strange. I don't look young or beautiful. No. But I feel visible, not a gray shadow, not a forgotten grandmother, but a woman with a name, a history, a life. By lunchtime, everything is ready. In the oven, a vegetable lasagna, David's favorite from childhood. On the table, a chocolate cake with walnuts, his preferred dessert, salad without meat for Emily, in case she still maintains her vegetarianism. Homemade cookies for Jason, everything familiar, homey, with the aroma of childhood. I set the table without excessive ceremony, but with taste. White tablecloth, clean dishes. In the center, a small vase with the first spring flowers from my garden. As I finish placing the silverware, I can't help thinking of all the family meals we've shared at this table. Of David's laughter when he was small. Of conversations with Robert about our days at work. It's hard to believe those moments won't return. That today I nervously await a visit that should be normal, every day. Around 2 o'clock, I start getting nervous. What if they don't come? What if once again everything is cancelled? Or David calls saying plans have changed? I'm already preparing for disappointment when I hear a car pull up. They've come. My family on my birthday. Exactly at 2, the doorbell rings. I look at myself one last time in the mirror. Neat hair, blue blouse, light makeup. I take a deep breath and open the door. "Happy birthday, Mom," says David, hugging me as if afraid to get dirty, carefully, barely touching my shoulders. He smells of expensive cologne and office. "Hello, Eleanor," Jennifer nods, without making even the slightest attempt to hug me. Sharp face, impeccable makeup, pearl earrings, everything looks brand new. Behind them are the children. Emily, 16, looking at her phone without even glancing at me. Dark hair, obviously dyed, partially covering her face. Jason, tall for his age, with teenage acne and a sullen expression, silently looks away. "Come in." I step back. "I'm so glad to see you all. Emily, Jason, how you've grown." Emily mumbles something without lifting her eyes from the screen. Jason simply shrugs and walks past. I feel a pang, but try not to show it. I'm used to hiding pain. "Smells good," observes David, sniffing. "I told you Mom would prepare something." "That's right." I try to smile. "Just vegetable lasagna and cake. Nothing special." "You still haven't renovated?" Jennifer looks around, critically examining the living room. "We can help you find a designer. All this is very outdated." "I feel comfortable here," I respond calmly. "There are many memories. That's precisely why everything should be renewed, she murmurs, as if to herself. We sit in the living room. David and Jennifer on the sofa. The children separated. Me on a chair I brought from the kitchen. The conversation doesn't flow. I ask about work, studies, plans for the summer. Short answers, boring, without interest. Let's go to the table, I suggest when the silence becomes too long. The lasagna is ready. At the table, the atmosphere warms slightly. David praises the dish. Emily reluctantly admits the salad is good. Jason even asks for seconds, though without saying a word. Only Jennifer barely touches the food. Watching my figure, she explains. How are your studies going, Emily? I try to engage my granddaughter in conversation. Dad mentioned you're in a school play. Emily raises her eyes from her phone and looks at me as if I were a museum piece. Yeah, Juliet, the premiere is in 2 weeks. Juliet, how wonderful. I'd love to see it. Could I come with you? Emily looks at her mother. Jennifer immediately intervenes. I'm afraid that's not possible, Eleanor. We only have 4 tickets. Us and my parents. Emily is very close to her grandmother Vivian. Of course, I understand. I nod, feeling my cheeks flush. I turn to Jason. And you, Jason, are you still playing baseball? No, I swim now, he mutters without raising his head. I didn't know. That's great. Your grandfather Robert was a very good swimmer when he was young. He has a lot of potential, interjects David with pride. The coach says he could compete. Magnificent. I'm very happy for you, I smile at my grandson. He just shrugs. Everything's so distant, so cold. I feel how inside me, that light with which I had awaited this meeting slowly extinguishes. Who wants cake? I ask, standing up. Chocolate with walnuts? We're on a diet, Jennifer hastens to say, putting a hand on Emily's shoulder. And Jason needs to watch his weight for swimming. I'll have a piece, Jason suddenly says, and his mother shoots him a withering look. A small piece, she decides. And extra training later. While I cut the cake, David approaches me in the kitchen. Mom, we won't stay long. Jennifer has a meeting at 5. We have to take the kids' change. My heart sinks. They've been in the house less than an hour, and they're already planning to leave. Of course, I respond, with a steady voice. Thank you for coming. When we return to the living room, Jennifer is already collecting her purse. Emily is still glued to her phone. Jason picks at the cake with his fork. We're leaving, announces David, clapping his hands. But first, the gift. Jennifer hands me a box, carefully wrapped in shiny paper and tied with a ribbon. Happy birthday, Eleanor. We chose it together. I take the box, feeling a slight emotion. A gift is a sign of attention. It means that, at least a little, they care. Open it, David urges me. And I suddenly notice a strange gleam in his eyes. I open it, slowly remove the ribbon, lift the lid. Inside there's nothing, a completely empty box. I raise my eyes to my son. I want to ask something, but they're already laughing. All 4 of them. They laugh loudly, uncontrollably, as if it gives them genuine pleasure. An empty box for an empty woman, David articulates between guffaws. Perfectly fitting. Totally appropriate, adds Jennifer, wiping tears of laughter. Emily records my face with her phone while Jason repeats. Empty, empty. I'm paralyzed, the box in my hands, my heart constricted. I can't believe it. This is my family. I look at them, holding the empty box, unable to utter a word. Everything seems like an absurd nightmare. David, my boy, whom I cradled in my arms, taught multiplication tables, stroked his head when his teeth hurt. Emily, my granddaughter, for whom I once knitted sweaters. Jason, with whom I built pillow forts in my living room. And there they are, sitting in front of me, laughing at me. David, my voice sounds strange, as if it's not mine. What was that? Mom, don't be upset. It's a joke. David continues laughing, though now with some uncertainty. A joke? I look at him in disbelief. You came to my birthday with an empty box and called me empty? That's a joke? Eleanor, don't be so dramatic, Jennifer interjects, still with traces of a smile. In our family, we call this dark humor. Our family? I squeeze the box so hard it starts to crumple in my hands. We haven't had anything in common for a long time. We have different families and different concepts of what humor is and what respect is. The smiles on their faces begin to fade slowly. They probably expected me to cry, to go offended to the kitchen, or to try to turn everything into a joke, but I don't cry. I feel as if something inside me has clicked, as if a door that for years I had tried to keep open, slowly but firmly, closed. Mom, David tries to take my hand. Don't take it so personally. It's just, well, a joke. We wanted to cheer you up a bit. Cheer me up? I stand up from the table. On my birthday, you decided to mock me. And you call that cheering me up. Grandma, why are you getting so worked up? Mumbles Emily, without taking the phone from her hands. It's just a joke. I look at her, this strange girl with dyed hair and a cold gaze, and suddenly understand. I know nothing about this girl. And she knows nothing about me, and doesn't want to know. You know what? I say calmly but firmly. You'd better leave. Jennifer, you have a meeting at 5, right? Best not to be late. They remain motionless. Evidently, they didn't expect this reaction. They thought I would be silent, as always, that I would swallow it, forget it, forgive it, but I simply stand there, with the crumpled box in my hands. And inside me, there are no tears, no offense, only coldness. Mom, David doesn't know what to say. Thank you for coming, I speak quietly. But that's enough now. And don't call on the weekend, as you usually promise and never do. I'm not offended. I simply understand everything now. I accompany them to the door without hysteria, without tears, with cold courtesy. David still tries to say something. Jennifer is already angry. Emily is silent. Jason gives me a strange look, as if he wants to say something, but remains quiet. We'll talk about this, says David as he leaves. Don't bother, I respond and close the door. When the sound of their car disappears around the corner, I slowly slide to the floor by the door, my back against the wood. The box is still in my hands, crumpled, empty. I look at it, and in my head, their words echo. An empty box for an empty woman. Empty, empty. The tears come on their own. I don't cry out loud, don't sob, simply sit there, leaning against the door, crying silently. For all those years of hope. For all the times I justified them. For every I understand. For every don't worry about it. I cry not because they hurt me, but because they are mine, my blood, my son, my grandchildren. And so easily, without hesitation, they turned my birthday into a humiliation for fun. When the tears stop, I get up with difficulty. My knees hurt. My back too. Age is already making itself felt, especially after sitting on the floor. I go to the kitchen, clear the table in silence. The lasagna barely touched. The salad too, of the cake. Just a couple of slices. I throw it all away. Wash the dishes. Clean the table. My movements are automatic, as if my body knows what to do while my soul hasn't yet recovered. Then I go upstairs to the bedroom. Sit on the edge of the bed. From the mirror looks back a woman in a blue blouse, with smudged mascara and dull eyes. As I contemplate my reflection, a thought begins to take shape in my mind, a thought I had never seriously considered before. Maybe it's time to stop waiting for things to change on their own. Maybe it's time for me to take the reins of my own life. Empty. They called me empty. I am not empty. I am Eleanor Mitchell. I have not lived an empty life. I raised a son, worked 40 years as a teacher, created a welcoming home, preserved my husband's memory. That's not empty. It's an entire history, and I won't allow them to trample me like this. I take out a notebook and an old address book from the nightstand. I find a number I haven't dialed in 7 years. James Wilson, attorney. He handled Robert's affairs after his death. It's almost 7 in the evening. I hesitate whether to call, but finally press the button. James Wilson speaking. The familiar voice sounds. Good evening. This is Eleanor Mitchell, Robert Mitchell's wife. It's been a while since we spoke. Of course, of course. I remember you. How are you? I'd like to make an appointment for tomorrow. It's about my will. It's very urgent. He pauses, probably checking his schedule. I can see you tomorrow at 10 in the morning. Thank you. It's very important. I hang up and breathe slowly. Something in me has ended today. But something, on the contrary, has just begun. Something new, something different. Something I feel like a small flame of dignity that refuses to be extinguished. I get up, approach the trash can, and throw away the infamous box. Then I take off the festive blouse, put on a house robe, and go to wash my face. This birthday has been the last one I'll spend waiting for their attention and love. I won't wait anymore. The next morning, I wake up before dawn. Sleep has been restless, as if something inside me is rearranging itself, not letting me rest. Outside it's still dark, but I can no longer stay in bed. I get up, make a strong black tea, sit in the kitchen by the window. Night still persists, but in the sky a light strip is already visible. Dawn will soon break, and in my mind there is a strange silence. Not anger, not pain, but precisely silence, as if my soul has exhaled for the first time in a long time. I get ready unhurriedly, choose a warm cardigan, fix my hair, apply a little powder. I want to look dignified. Still, when I leave the house, I feel something like anxiety in my chest. I had thought about the will before, but always postponed it. Not now. It's still early. I'll live a little longer. Now I understand, it's not early. I simply had illusions before. James Wilson receives me in his office, the same one I remember. Dark wood, stacks of neatly arranged papers, an armchair with worn armrests. Eleanor, he stands, shakes my hand. I'm glad to see you, although I admit I'm surprised. I hope it's nothing serious. On the contrary, it's simply time to put things in order. While I'm still of sound mind and deciding for myself who gets what. He nods, letting me know he won't ask unnecessary questions. We sit down. He opens his laptop. Tell me. I take out the sheet I hastily drafted last night, before sleeping. I have a house, a bank account, and a small cottage. I want to leave it all to Martha Johnson. My neighbor, we've known each other for more than 30 years. She's not related to me by blood, but she's closer than anyone I have. With her I've shared sorrows, joys, loneliness, everything, and to my son, nothing. Not to him, not to his wife, not to the children, not a cent. James Wilson looks at me carefully. Are you sure? Absolutely sure. It's not out of revenge. I simply don't want to leave what Robert and I built to people who consider me empty. Let them continue building their lives without my help. He nods. Then we'll do everything according to the law. But keep in mind that after your passing, even if the will is correctly drafted, your son could try to contest it. By law he has the right to a mandatory portion, as a first-line heir. Let him try, I shrug. At least I'll know I did everything honestly. The paperwork took almost an hour. When I signed the documents, I felt as if an old burden had fallen from my shoulders, heavy, dusty, long expired. Now everything was decided. At the exit, James Wilson stops me. You know, you're not a typical client of mine. Usually children come to litigate against parents, not parents to leave everything out of their children's reach. You're a brave woman, Eleanor. I smile. Brave? No, simply at some point you reach a limit. Back home, I stop by Martha's. She's in the kitchen, cleaning windows. Why such a serious face? She asks, surprised, drying her hands on her apron. I've come about something important. We sit down. I pour tea for both of us. I've made a will. Everything goes to you. The house, the cottage, the money. Martha almost drops her cup. Have you lost your mind? I don't bring you soup for this. Martha, don't start. It's my decision. Not because you give me something, but because you've been by my side when no one else was. Because you're a person, not simply a relative on paper. She remains silent for a long time, then covers my hand with hers. I won't abandon you, Eleanor. Not now, not later. But you know I don't need anything. I do. I need to know that everything Robert and I created will remain in the hands of someone who won't spit on my back. We have tea. Afterward, Martha accompanies me to the market. We buy fresh vegetables, fish, flowers. It's pleasant simply to walk, chat, choose, feel that I'm not alone. That night, I take out old notebooks, the ones I kept when I taught children. Notes, problems, margin notes. Then I find Robert's letters. He wasn't romantic, but sometimes wrote notes. Gone to work. Miss you. Don't forget to buy cream. You're the best at solving equations and making soup. Such simple things. But everything was in them. I read and feel that I've had an authentic life, with love, with work, with warmth. It's simply that now the time has come for another chapter. Not worse, not more terrible, simply new. Before sleeping, I note in my journal, if they don't respect you, don't knock on the door. Leave. Let them remain empty without you, and you at peace. Several days pass. I live as always. Clean, cook, go to the library, call Martha, water the flowers. Everything seems calm, but inside me something is suspended, like before a storm. I try not to think about my birthday, to erase it from memory, as if it didn't exist. I don't want to even touch those memories. They still sting. But one night, Friday, when it has already grown dark, suddenly the phone rings. The number is identified, David. I look at the screen for a long time without answering. I would like to simply turn off the phone, but something inside pushes me. Curiosity, perhaps. Or the old habit. I press answer. Hello? Hi, Mom. The voice sounds apparently normal, but no longer as confident as before. I wanted, well, to talk to you. I remain silent. Let him speak. Well, maybe we went a bit too far. With that box, it was a tasteless joke. We didn't want to offend you. Lucia herself has already said that perhaps we went overboard. It's just that now, everything is tense. Me at work. Her always with projects. The kids. You understand. I continue to be silent. Mom, he raises his voice slightly. You've always been understanding. You're not one to hold grudges. This was just a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? I repeat calmly. That's when you confuse salt with sugar. But when 4 people laugh in your face, that's no longer a mistake. It's a choice. He falls silent. I continue. I went to that birthday like it was a celebration. I prepared, cleaned, bought food, got dressed up, and you came as if to a theater, put on a show, and left. And now you ask me to understand. Mom, his voice becomes irritated. Why are you exaggerating everything? You're not a child to cry over a box. We came, congratulated you, spent time with you, and now you're angry with everyone, like a little girl. No, David, I interrupt him. I'm not angry. I've opened my eyes. It's not the same thing. He falls silent again, then exhales. Okay, you want us to apologize? Fine. I apologize. Jennifer too, I think. The kids, of course, didn't mean anything bad. Can we just forget about it? David, I speak now calmly, almost tired. You forget what doesn't hurt. This hurts me. There's no need for you to come anymore. I don't need either your visits or your apologies. Mom, what are you saying? Now he's starting to get nervous. All this over a box? Seriously? No, David, this isn't about the box. It's about how you looked at me, as if I were a burden to you, as if my presence were an annoyance. And you're my son, and that's what hurts the most. He wants to say something, but I'm already tired. I have to go. Take care. And I hang up. My hands are trembling. My heart is beating fast. It's hard. Very hard. But in this hardness, there is also strength. For the first time, I haven't been silent. Haven't smoothed things over. Haven't pretended everything is fine. I've told the truth without shouting, without reproaches, simply as it is. The next day, Martha knocks on my door with 2 pies and news. "Guess who was at the notary's office today?" she says, entering the kitchen. "They say David went asking about something, about the will." I shrug. "They reacted quickly," Martha grumbles. "Fear guards the vineyard." "I don't care. Come on." She looks at me attentively. "You're not like that. Until the last moment you've hoped." "I have hoped," I nod. "But hope is not an obligation. If it doesn't grow, it's not yours." We sit down to have tea. I eat half a pie. Then, suddenly, I laugh. What? I'm imagining Jennifer reading the text of the will. Her blood pressure must be rising. She would exchange the house, the cottage, and even you for a designer outfit. And now nothing. Zero. "I'm not zero," I say quietly. "You're not zero. You're a one with infinite meaning," smiles Martha. I laugh. Genuinely, for the first time in a long time. And then, when she leaves, I sit by the window, pour myself a little wine, half a glass, and put on soft music. Sitting in the dimness, I watch how the sunset colors the sky over Oak Ridge. And I think, not everything in life turns out as we dreamed. But sometimes, when you finally let go, it becomes lighter than it was. I'm alone, but I don't feel lonely. Something inside me has changed forever, as if my spirit has straightened its back after years of being bent under the weight of waiting. A few days later, I go to the pharmacy. My blood pressure has been fluctuating, and I decide I should buy medication in advance, to avoid having to rush later. I return unhurriedly, through the park, where the trees are still bare, but spring is already in the air. On a bench on the central path, someone is sitting with a book. I almost walk past, but then a familiar voice. "Eleanor Mitchell?" I look up. Before me stands Thomas Clark, a former history teacher. He retired before I did, after his wife passed away. We coincided a couple of times at faculty meetings. He was quiet, reserved, but always kind. "Is that really you?" He rises, smiles. "Alive and well. And what are you doing here and not at the library?" "I felt like getting some fresh air. After winter I always feel as if something inside me is awakening, as if I want to live again." I sit beside him. We talk about the high school, about Oak Ridge, about the weather, about books. He tells me he's rereading Hemingway. I tell him I've developed a fondness for memoirs. The hour passes without us noticing. When I stand to leave, he says, "What if you came to visit me sometime?" Truth is, I'm tired of drinking tea alone. And I make pie. Maybe not like your Martha's, but I try. I smile. That could be nice. We start seeing each other. Not frequently, not like dates. Simply 2 older people who understand each other without superfluous words. I bring him muffins, he reads poetry to me. We discuss movies, share news, sometimes simply sit in silence. And that too is communication. I don't tell anyone, not even Martha. Not because I'm embarrassed, I simply don't want to talk about it. I want to feel first if it's mine or not. And gradually I understand that beside him I become more serene. The tension disappears. I don't need to prove that I deserve love, attention, respect. He already sees it. One day he asks me, "And your son, how is he?" I just shake my head. I no longer have a son. Biologically maybe, but in essence, he has disappeared. He doesn't ask more questions, only says, "That hurts." But I add, sometimes losing is also a form of liberation. Meanwhile, David continues calling. First himself, then through Jennifer. I don't answer. Then messages arrive. "Mom, you're acting like an offended old woman. Stop being silly. Let's talk like adults. What is this farce with the will? You'll regret it." I don't respond. I delete everything. But one day he finally comes. Without warning, without calling. He knocks on the door forcefully. insistently. Mom, we need to talk. He gets straight to the point. He looks tired, gray eyes as if he hasn't slept. There's no need. We've already discussed everything. That's what you think? I don't. He enters the house without waiting for an invitation. I don't throw him out. I don't have the energy to argue. He sits in the kitchen. Me across from him. What are you doing, Mom? A will in favor of the neighbor? It's crazy. You've raised me all your life, worked for me, saved money. And now for someone who's a stranger, she's not a stranger to me. And what am I to you? I look him directly in the eyes. You were my son, until the day when, together with your wife and your children, you sat in my living room and laughed at me. He clenches his fists, looks away. It was stupid. I understand. I don't justify it. But you always said, family is the most important thing. What happened to that? I said it, and I believed it. But then I saw that this family is one-sided. I love, but I'm not loved. I'm used, ignored, humiliated. I'm not blind. I simply didn't want to see before. He covers his face with his hands, is silent for a minute, then raises his head. Jennifer has filed for divorce. I'm paralyzed. I wasn't expecting this. You weren't getting along? Everything was falling apart for a long time, but now it's over. She's taken the kids. I'm alone. I don't know what to say. Don't think, he continues, that I came because of that. It's just that I have no one. Not anymore. I look at him, and for the first time in a long time, I see not a strange man, but that little boy who used to come to me at night with nightmares. But my heart doesn't immediately melt. The pain inside is still alive. I'm glad you came, David, but I can't forget everything in one day. I can't simply erase what you did to me. He nods. I understand, but maybe you'll reconsider the will. I sigh heavily. I didn't write it to then bargain. When you were laughing at me, you weren't thinking about my assets. So let it stay that way. He gets up. It's clear he wanted to say something more, but changes his mind. I'm not asking for anything, just forgiveness. I don't respond. I simply accompany him to the door and close it behind him silently, without noise, and then I stand for a long time by the window thinking. There are moments when life tests how willing you are to be true to yourself. This is one of those moments, and I know I won't give in. 2 weeks pass after that conversation with David. He doesn't appear anymore. No calls, no messages. There is silence. Almost strange. I had gotten used to his attempts to contact me, to his short, irritated phrases. And now, emptiness. But in this emptiness I breathe better. Thomas starts coming more often. Sometimes he simply brings the fresh newspaper. Sometimes apples from the market. One day, a jar of honey. We sit having tea, sometimes in silence, sometimes chatting. He doesn't ask about my son, about my family, doesn't probe into my soul. He's simply there, and it's enough. One evening, he suddenly says, Eleanor, have you ever thought about leaving here? Where to? I'm surprised. For instance, to Florida, or the South, where it's warm, where the ocean is close. I was born there. I still have an apartment. Old but cozy. It's empty now. I thought maybe I'd move there, but alone it doesn't make sense. I look at him, slowly understanding where he's going with this. Are you suggesting I go with you? I'm not suggesting anything, simply thinking aloud. We're both alone. We've both already fulfilled our duties, but maybe not everything is over. Maybe we still have a couple of years not just to survive, but to live. He says it and falls silent, as if frightened by his own audacity. And I'm silent, because inside me, my heart constricts. The ocean, the warmth, the tranquility, and not being alone, not waking up in an empty house, not drinking tea in silence, not talking to myself. I'll think about it, I say. And I feel in my chest a slight, but genuine hope. A couple of days later, Sunday, as always, I'm baking an apple pie. I like when the house smells of baking. I've barely taken it out of the oven when there's a knock at the door. On the threshold stands Emily, my granddaughter. I'm astonished, almost don't recognize her. She's standing there, hair pulled back in a ponytail, no makeup. Eyes like David's when he was a child, tired, but genuine. "Grandma," she says quietly. "Can I come in?" I nod silently. She enters, sits on the edge of the chair like a stranger. "I came alone. Without Mom, without Dad. Nobody knows I'm here. Tea?" I don't know what else to say. "Yes, please." I place a cup before her, a slice of pie. She takes the cup, but doesn't eat. She looks out the window. I'm ashamed. That day I was silent. I really didn't want to. I thought it was just a joke. Mom was laughing. Dad too. I went along. But then, when you closed the door and I was left alone in the car, I felt bad. "Why have you been silent all this time?" I didn't know what to say. And then Mom said, "Forget it, your grandmother is resentful." But I couldn't forget it. She falls silent, then takes something out of her bag. "I wanted to give you something." On the table, a carefully wrapped package. I open it. Inside, our old album, the one I once gave to David. And inside, photos. Me with Robert. David in school. Me holding Emily in my arms. She's 1 year old. Us at the cottage. Us by the Christmas tree. Us by the river. I was looking at it yesterday for a long time and suddenly realized that you're the closest person I have. Because I grew up with you. Because you loved me not for my grades, not for my behavior, but simply because. I don't know if you can forgive me, but I want you to know that I remember and that I'm not like them. I take the album, run my finger over the photo where she's sitting on my lap, with a pink hat. I feel like crying. "I don't hold a grudge, Emily," I say. "I've simply stopped waiting. Can I come see you? Not as a granddaughter who wants to get something, but simply as a person." "Come." She stands up, embraces me for real, strongly, with a tremor. I feel that, whatever happens, this is no longer pretense. When she leaves, I sit for a long time with the album, turning the pages, rubbing the folds with my finger. And I understand that life doesn't end with one offense. Sometimes grandchildren become closer than children. Sometimes strangers are closer than relatives. And sometimes the closest is yourself when you stop humiliating yourself and start living. Spring this year came unexpectedly quickly. Almost no mud, no snow. Everything as if surrendering before the sun. I surrendered too, but not in a bad sense. I simply let go of offenses, expectations, that dull melancholy with which I used to go to bed. Emily starts coming almost every week. At first timid, insecure, then with more freedom, she sits in my kitchen, tells me about high school, about rehearsals, about her friend with whom they want to go to college in Boston. "And you, Grandma? What did you want to be when you were young?" "A teacher." I smile. I know. Cliché, but it's true, and I was. Not once did I regret it. She becomes thoughtful. "I always thought you were boring, but it turns out you're not. It's nice being with you." For me, this isn't just a phrase, it's a bridge, a drop of truth, and a piece of hope. One day, she comes with a jar of jam and 2 tickets. They're for the play. I'm in it, of course. "Juliet, do you want to come? And your parents won't go? They're busy. And well, I don't want them to come." "But you?" "I do want to. It takes me a long time to choose what to wear." Finally, I put on a dark dress. Add a brooch that Robert gave me long ago. And for the first time in a long time, I go not as an old woman, but as a woman who has somewhere to go. In the auditorium, I sit quietly in a corner. But when Emily comes on stage, my heart skips a beat. She delivers the text with such sincerity, with such warmth in her voice, that I barely contain my tears. Before me is not simply a student, but a genuine young woman with heart. My continuation, not in blood, but in spirit. After the performance, she runs to me in the lobby, hugs me, laughs that her legs are trembling. I kiss her forehead and tell her, "You are the best," not out of courtesy, but because it's true. We walk along the street, arm in arm, as if time has reversed. A month later, I leave for Florida. Not forever, but to try. Thomas receives me at the station with daisies. Authentic, warm, somewhat shy, like a schoolboy. His apartment is old but bright, with bookshelves full of books and views of the ocean. I settle in a small room with a balcony, place my photos, a little vase with dried roses brought from Martha's house, and the album with photos of the children. We don't call ourselves a couple, don't say big words, simply live together. I get up early, go to the market, then make a pie. Afterward we sit together reading, sometimes go to the ocean, simply sit by the water. In the evenings he reads Frost to me aloud, and I to him. Memories from an old pedagogical magazine, where my article was once published. There is silence, calm, and no need to rush anywhere. Sometimes I dream that David is a child again, stretching his arms to me. I take him in my arms, hug him, and then I wake up and understand that reality is already different. And that's okay too. Emily calls, tells me she's passed her exams, says she's gotten into Boston University. I congratulate her. She says, "I'll still come to see you, Grandma, who loves me." 6 months later, I return to Oak Ridge. For a short time, to collect my things, close affairs. When I enter the building, I meet David. He's standing by the door, as if waiting. Unshaven, aged, hunched, dull gaze. "Mom!" I open the door in silence. "I just wanted to know if you're alive." "Alive," I nod. "And even happy." "I'm not," he says quietly. "I've lost everything. My wife, my children, myself, and you." I look at him, and suddenly understand that he really is alone. But I can no longer help him, nor do I want to. Sometimes we don't lose because we're abandoned, but because we ourselves turned away for too long. He nods, doesn't argue. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. It's too late. Just if someday." I don't let him finish, put my hand on his shoulder. "Take care." But I'm already on another path, and I won't go back. Back in Florida, I step onto the balcony, breathe in the warm air. On the horizon, the ocean. The waves gently whisper as if someone were telling me, "You made it." Thomas comes out behind me. "For good?" I smile. "I think so." He hands me a cup of tea, then "Let's toast to the new." I nod. To the new. To not being empty. To not being a useless old woman nobody needs, but a living and full person who one day found in herself the strength to say, "Enough," and moved forward.